I'd like to call to order the Shakopee Public Schools School Board Work Session for February 10, 2025. Tiffany, can you please do the roll?
Siddick.
Here.
Valdez.
Here.
Peterson. Here. Smith.
Here.
Aldrich.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Brophy.
Here.
Michelle and Shania.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, good evening, everybody. It's good to see another packed house here tonight. We have a few business items to get through. So this will be a shorter meeting than last time, I think. And fortunately, we get to start with several Saber Pride items. So that's next on our agenda. Item 3.1 is our Education Minnesota Teacher of the Year candidate. Each year, Education Minnesota celebrates excellence in teaching by naming the Minnesota Teacher of the Year. For the 61st annual award, 142 candidates have been nominated, and Shakopee teachers have a strong history of recognition in this program, including several semifinalist designations. This year, Kim Nye, kindergarten teacher at Eagle Creek Elementary School, has been selected as a 2025 candidate. Kim has served in the district since 2007 and started her full-time teaching career in our district. She has taught kindergarten and first grade, served as an intervention teacher and summer school teacher, and has supported the community in various other ways. 2025 Teacher of the Year candidates are presently being reviewed by an independent panel. Semifinalists will be chosen in March, followed by finalists shortly thereafter. Then the winner will be announced at a May banquet. The dedication of our Shakopee teachers and educators statewide is truly inspiring. Seeing Shakopee teachers from various schools and grade levels recognized over the years highlights the importance our community places on education and the supportive network our educators have built. Congratulations, Mrs. Nye. Make our way around. Oh, there is no room that way.
That's all right. We can present over here.
Okay. We have a new arrangement tonight, so.
Jump over to there.
Yeah.
Again.
Congratulations.
Another round of applause.
Next on our agenda is item 3.2, National School Resource Officer Day recognition. This year, National SRO Day is honored on February 15th, which is a Saturday. So today we have special guests with us to share our gratitude in honor of this day and the incredible public service provided by Officer Santos, Officer Kirchbaum, Officer Kern, and Captain Nordvid. And I'm not sure if any of them could make it. It doesn't look like it. All right. Our special guests include former school resource officer and now dedicated district crisis and safety coordinator, Candy Christensen, and two Shakopee High School students who are future criminal justice majors and currently shadowing our SRO team as part of their Academies of Shakopee CAPS internship. I'll let our students introduce themselves, and Candy can take over from here. Thank you.
Thank you for having us. Our SROs were busy tonight with family engagements and other stuff, but it was truly an honor to serve with them for the 19 years I did as a Shakopee police officer and the 5 years as an SRO. Now I have the honor of working aside Officer Kern in the same office, so I get to see his dedication to students every day and the commitment that they have. All those SROs to becoming mentors and guiding these students to stay out of trouble and make the right decisions. So it's truly an honor to see them. So much so that they trusted me with 2 interns in our office this year that are helping myself and SRO Kern with a bunch of the projects we got going on. So introduce yourself, guys.
My name is Jack O. I'm Shane Kettler.
And what are we currently working on?
So we're working with Canon and also Kearns a little bit on building a new reunification kit to keep at the community center. We started this project a couple weeks ago, and we've just been ordering, or basically breaking down the kit we already have and making it into a new one to store elsewhere.
And this kit would be at the community center because if any other school came to, or happened at their school, if anything happened there, like a gas leak or maybe a school shooting, they would come to the high school. But if it happened at the high school, we'd have to move to somewhere else outside of the high school, so that would get moved to the community center. And our kit would be placed there.
Wonderful, and they've been a huge help on that. And why did you decide to come spend some time with our SROs? What's your future hold for you?
So I'm planning on going to either Iowa State or Missouri, and I've been interested in this field for a while, and I think it's just nice having the SROs at the high school, because Kearns is always willing to go into classes and talk and answer questions, which I think is a great thing.
And I'm going to the University of Minnesota, and I'm going to be studying sociology of criminology and law, which is going to be fun. And I've always wanted a career in law enforcement. Growing up with the resource officers, like I always see them, even today in lunch, there was a fight right in front of us, and the resource officer came and broke it up. So it's actually real good things that they're doing at the school, but it sometimes just goes unnoticed.
So again, our appreciation out to the SROs. It's great having them in the school all day. How many times every day somebody comes and tells us that they appreciate the SROs being there and giving that extra sense that the school's a safe place to be. So, thank you.
Thank you guys.
Thanks, guys.
And our next Sabre Pride item 3.3, is I Love to Read Month, Sabre Spotlight. And Tiffany Olson, the Director of Communications and Strategic Development, will be presenting for this. Shakopee High School student Brielle Pancake, who is in the Business and Entrepreneurship Academy, compiled highlights from one of the many events that are orchestrated throughout the district. While Brielle could not be with us tonight, as she's working hard on the Sabre basketball court, her CAPS mentor, Tiffany Olson, is here to share the spotlight on her behalf.
Yes, and if it's okay, Chair Smith, I'll stay here just for this because this is something that Brielle put together. Mr. Bell, who's in the audience here, did a great job of sharing the readathon that they had on Friday, and Brielle was in charge. She went and got to interview teachers, was with students, and you're gonna watch her quick highlight that she helped put together in Canva.
I'm Brielle, senior at Shakopee High School, and I went with the communications department to Sweeney Elementary for the readathon for I Love to Read Month. After a quick tour around Sweeney and watching younger students navigate the hallways for the readathon, sometimes with confidence and others with uncertainty, we started in Mr. Larson's classroom. He incorporated history, women in sports, and movement into his interactive reading activity. Building upon their book knowledge, students in the next classroom are playing book bingo to sharpen their critical thinking skills. Technology was used to help support visuals for students in this classroom and others. In the next classroom, future engineers were busy in the makerspace, building their own creations that could be inspired by astronauts reading.
For the kids, it just kind of promotes so many different experiences. There's games regarding athletics, there's things regarding just using your imagination, and so kind of opens a new door for their reading and their experiences, and they also get to make connections with adults throughout the building.
My journey ended in a peaceful classroom transformed into a makeshift campground. There, kindergartners and fifth graders paired up to read, providing a truly inspiring example of pure learning. It was enlightening to see how literacy is incorporated into learning and how it influences not just reading, but a wide range of activities.
Thank you.
Yes.
Next on our agenda is item 4, the consideration of the agenda as presented.
Motion?
Second. Motion by Peterson, a second by Aldrich. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next on our agenda is item 5, public comment. This is the time where members of the public can participate in the meeting without being part of the meeting agenda. A member of the public may address the board on an agenda topic or on another topic. We allocate a total of 15 minutes for public comment at this meeting. Each individual speaker may speak for up to 2.5 minutes. The sign up for public comment has been conducted online and in person prior to this evening's meeting. Requests are not processed on an overall first come, first served basis. There is an element of first come, first served representing a specific viewpoint on a particular topic. If more than 6 speakers sign up for public comment, topics and speakers will be prioritized. Topics on this evening's agenda take priority over those topics not on the agenda. Speakers living within the school district take priority over those from outside the district. When speakers plan to share differing perspectives on the same topic, an effort is made to balance the quantity of speakers on each side of the topic. Public comment is conducted in accordance with School Board Policy 206, which can be found on the school district website. Persons who wish to address the school board during public comment must sign up prior to the start of the school board meeting and should provide their name and the subject to which comments pertain. Only those persons who have been recognized by the board chair will be allowed to speak during public comment or at any time during the school board meeting for that matter. No personal attacks will be allowed on any district employee, including school board members. As a reminder, school board members will typically only listen and not interact in any way with the public comment speaker. The board may, at its discretion, ask questions for clarification of an issue. We have 4 speakers signed up tonight. Our first speaker is Jill Nelson. Welcome.
My name is Jill Nelson, and I'm an elementary physical education teacher and have been with Shakopee Public Schools for 17 years. I'm here to represent the elementary FIA department and speak on behalf of the team. Since learning about the new elementary specialist schedule proposal, we as a team have reached out to many local districts and surrounding schools. We have found the majority of our districts in our area operate off a 5-day specialist schedule, with most districts having PE 2 times within those 5 days. We have also found the majority of these districts have PE more than other specialist areas. Having more physical education time allotted is vital and is best for our students when you see what a large number of Minnesota benchmarks we have to teach. To put it into perspective, PE has more benchmarks than all 3 of the other specialist areas combined. How can we teach all 238 benchmarks if we only see our students 1 time per week? Having more physical education time allotted is vital and best for our students when you look at the CDC guidelines. According to the CDC, elementary students should have around 150 minutes of physical education per week, which translates to roughly 30 minutes of FIAD per day. Keep in mind, this is a guideline for physical education, not for physical activity. Recess is not a replacement for physical education in elementary schools. Recess and PE are both important parts of a school day, but are separate entities. Having more physical education time allotted is vital and is best for our students when you look at how PE impacts the students' emotional well-being by reducing stress and anxiety. Having more physical education time allotted is vital and is best for our students because PE fosters social skills by encouraging teamwork, cooperation, and communication among peers. Having more physical education time allotted is vital and is best for our students when you understand how PE improves concentration and focus, while organized sports and games encourage problem solving and strategic thinking. Having more physical education time allotted is vital and is best for our students when you talk to classroom teachers who are very concerned about the reduction in time their students will have to be active in an organized, safe setting. We understand that it is our moral imperative to change until all of our systems measurably work for each and every student. However, this new system is not what is best for our students and does not support our youngest students' developmental needs, and that is the need to be active and to move their bodies. Thank you for your consideration.
Our next speaker is Andrew and Katie Nelson, team.
Welcome. Good evening, everyone. We would like to thank the board for postponing the vote for the elementary specialist schedule. We hope the extra time has allowed for a thorough analysis, a comprehensive plan, and a way to honor the needs of our staff and students. Since attending the last school board meeting, we have reflected on the proposal given to change the schedule from 10 days to 4 days. The proposal lacked detail and requested the board to pass an incomplete plan that would affect so many students and staff. During the Q&A portion of the meeting, the school board asked fair questions to learn more about the proposal, how it compared to school surrounding districts, what other options were available to consider, how would the high potential program be changed, and if the band was reduced, how often would it meet as a large group? Unfortunately, the responses to these vital questions were unclear.
I contacted 11 Twin Cities school districts near Shakopee to find out. I organized the results and emailed them to each of you last week to broaden the perspective on other successful options. Since sending, it is important to note that one other district did contact me back with a correction, that they do offer 6th grade band instead of 5th grade. It is important to note a few highlights from my research when making your decision for the Shakopee students. First, 10 districts have a 5th grade band that meets outside of the specialist rotation schedule. Each district offers a program that meets as a full band once a week, as well as lessons once a week. Regardless of the rotation schedule the districts use, they have not reduced their band program in order to create efficiency in their schedules. The proposed 4-day plan for Shakopee would reduce our band program. Second, the most common schedule is a 5-day specialist rotation. Districts that run a 5-day schedule successfully run a 5th grade band program as well. The proposal being presented this evening states that 5th grade band would need to be cut if a 5-day schedule was adopted in Shakopee. Districts with a 5-day schedule are successfully making both work. Third, if the 4-day schedule is adopted, the reductions would cause Shakopee students to receive less PE, music, and band than all 11 districts contacted. Fourth, there are 3 districts that have also adopted a STEM class in place of media similar to the Shakopee proposal. These districts have not reduced their PE or music classes for this change. They ensure classes still have a weekly book checkout as well as a successful band program.
Research shows we do not need to make sacrifices for our students when revising our specialist schedule. The schedule needs to allow for competitive programming compared to surrounding districts and focus on what young learners need. If the board has been wanting to make this change for many years, isn't it worth persevering to make the best decision possible for all parties? It is vital that the decision only be made when the schedule is comprehensive and right. Thank you for your dedication to the Shakopee students.
Our next speaker is Chris Taylor. Welcome.
Good evening. I'm Chris Taylor. I currently serve as the Director of Bands at West Middle School. I also have 10 years experience in teaching 5th grade band in Shakopee, as well as 3 students in the district. I left the last board meeting rather disappointed. There were so many questions left unanswered. Things like, how are we going to replace the lost physical activity time with a cut to gym? The CDC recommends 60 minutes of moderate to strenuous activity a day. And I do not see a DD game at the start of a STEM class replacing that activity. There's just simply no way it can. Also, why STEM? Why is this the magic pill that's going to solve all of our issues? And what is the issue that this is addressing? What is the impotence for STEM? That to me was not clear. It's a broad proposal, an umbrella proposal without a lot of parts decided right now. But what concerns me the most is the uncertainty of fifth grade band. I don't know when rehearsals are going to happen. I don't know where. I don't know what money, support, and funding is going to pay for a reduction of 75 minutes a week. That's 150 minutes over the 10-day cycle of small group band, other than, well, of course we will. Unfortunately, in my experience in this district with fifth grade band, when we have tried to make changes, and we have tried to make changes, it is met with two outcomes. Either a decision has been made at the district level, and we are called together to accept it and figure out how to make it work, or there is no funding for our proposed changes, no desire or appetite for what it is we have proposed. And right now I get the feeling that this is the same old thing that always happens. A decision has been made, and when this and if this is passed, the fifth grade band will have to figure it out as best as we can so it doesn't hurt our students. And the reason I believe that, and I checked with my colleagues this afternoon just to make sure I wasn't speaking out of turn, no meeting has happened between the fifth grade band department and district level administration, or the LTE department, or even the department and the building level principals. They had 2 weeks. Nothing concrete is put in place. There is nothing in writing saying this is what we will do to support this program to make up for the reduction of minutes. It is not a reduction in FTE because of a technicality in how lessons and rehearsals have been paid for. But it is a reduction of time, and that hurts and kills a program. Not just for me as my feeder program at West, but for my kids at home, who aren't going to get the program that they deserve and that I taught and is currently taught. And so I ask you, please, say no until they actually meet with the departments and they can tell you what and how they are going to do this. Thank you.
Our final speaker is Laurel Dorn. Welcome.
Appreciate the board hearing parents in particular. I apologize, I am a nervous speaker, so I will do my best. My name is Laurel Dorn. I am on the wrong page. I am a 20-year resident of Shakopee. I am the parent of an elementary student. I am the member of a PTO board, but in no way represent them today. I'm a member of the Sweeney PTO board. I'm a volunteer in the schools. And most importantly, I'm a parent of a special ed student. And I deeply respect Mr. Bell, and if your other principals are half as good as he is, I understand that you went to a very good source to try and figure this out. I deeply respect them and the time and effort they put into this. But I'm still concerned, and so I feel I have to express that concern because my son is a 5th grader at Sweeney, so you would think, why would this affect me? Well, it doesn't really affect me. But again, my son is a special ed student. He's a level 2 autistic with ADHD. And if people had stood up and helped years ago to find access for my son, he may have been looked aside. When I was a kid, he would, and that's a concern for me. Now, do I think this is as big a concern as that? No, but I am concerned. And my biggest concern is that special ed kids will get overlooked with this. There was no information. I did attend the last meeting, and there was no information as to how this would affect kids. I understand if there isn't any data, but if several districts have been into a program that's very similar to this, why isn't there any data? Special ed kids, stuff surrounding special ed kids is mandated by the state, not necessarily data. I understand that, but information. My son's a 5th grader at Sweeney. He's a member of the 5th grade band. I know you'll be shocked to hear that, and I never thought he would come home with an instrument that I couldn't even pronounce, but it's euphonium, and he loves it. And so much so that as soon as he heard that he couldn't play it next year if he decided he was going to go into a different program, he's going to be in the band at 6th grade. He is being a little too autistic with ADHD for my son means that he never stops moving. This makes PE a concern for me as well. He is a wonderful kid, and I just had to come out and say to you folks, I understand, I appreciate the effort everyone is trying to make on this, but I really would ask you to stop and think and make sure that this is as a complete proposal as it could be, and that every kid is being looked at, HP and special ed as well. Okay? So I will take that.
Thank you to all the speakers. And that leads us right into our first action item, which is the elementary specialist rotation. So, not to go into Robert's rules too deeply, but so we had postponed this item from our last meeting 2 weeks ago to tonight. So that question was motioned and seconded 2 weeks ago. And so that question is before us once again. We have Nika and Steph here again to present with a new slide deck, new information to clarify. And what I'm leading to is the proposal that you will make, I've seen the slides, has different wording. So we would need an amendment to change the wording before we would vote on that. So I'm just clarifying that now. So Nika and Steph will present, we'll have an opportunity for questions, and then we'll return back to the question that was postponed from 2 weeks ago. So with that.
Cheers. If I can just take a moment, I'd like to
Jim.
just want to take a moment to thank Nika, Steph, the entire elementary principal group for the work that they've done. This is 8 months of research-based work, investigating the best practices, talking to neighboring districts, and putting together the best plan that they possibly can. I would point out that over the last 2 weeks, we have had a number of other plans put forward to us. These are all plans that, as they talked with Dr. Redmond and I, were plans that they had looked at before, things that they had considered, and they still do believe that the 4-day rotation, as they have created it and will go into greater detail tonight, is the best plan as we look to modify our specialist rotation. And I would just close by saying change is hard. There's always a trade-off when we make a change. We definitely made some trade-offs to move to the academies of Shakopee 9 years ago. I think that we all feel very good about that, having given it time to run its course and to be fully implemented. And I hope that you'll listen carefully to our experts tonight as they share what they have learned over the last 8 months.
Thank you.
Okay. So again, just want to put the larger context of the bigger picture that we have been working on. Again, it's about, yes, this 4-day recommendation, but also our math and our literacy adoptions, and really looking at all of the services we're providing our elementary students. So our goal, right, is grounded in learning experiences and improved outcomes for each and every student in Shakopee. We were charged with ensuring that we have more hands-on learning experiences for students, more enrichment opportunities for more students to participate, connecting programming throughout the school day for kids, keeping that student-centered focus in math and literacy, ensuring we have time to meet all of our state standards, and then a greater alignment to our secondary buildings. And I just want to say I appreciate the opportunity to be back tonight after the meeting 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, you charged us with clearly sharing what the issues are, making sure that we communicate the research and the rationale for how we got to the 4-day rotation, and providing a feedback loop to our teachers, which we feel like we have done. And to echo what Mr. McCulsich said, it did validate and affirm our recommendation tonight to move forward with the 4-day.
So just to loop back from where we were 2 weeks ago, our recommendation is to change the structure of the specialist rotation from a 10-day rotation to a 4-day rotation. There is work that needs to be done, next steps that needs to be done to develop a system which retains full band, so we will continue full band, and that is a recommendation. And just to go back to the why a little bit, we first started at the 10-day schedule. I think in our research, and it sounds like a lot of other people have done research, there really isn't a 10-day schedule anywhere that I've heard of. And so we were looking at what are the ways in which it's failing, supporting student learning. As we said last time, it creates a situation in which one of the specialists sees students over a 10-day period, over 1,000 students. Really hard to make connections with students when they see them 16 or 17 times a year. And it's also very challenging to schedule specialists and teachers across the system, 5 elementaries. And so we have students who have multiple teachers for one course. In some situations, we have large class sizes, such as 45 students, and a lot of time is spent in the car traveling for teachers.
And I just wanted, this feedback came from our specialist teachers. We shared that with you, I think, after the board meeting. Really clear what the issues were. There were 13 pages of notes that kind of highlighted these challenges.
So this is it's just showing the complexity of one site. It's a sample in a 10-day cycle. And as you can see, all of the grayed out areas are times when a teacher has to travel. And then the yellow areas are actually when they're actually traveling. So the gray is going to different sites and the yellow is actually travel time. And it's just not the best use of our resources. It's we want kids and students together. We want student contact time. And so this just kind of shows you a snapshot of the complexity of it. Okay, so when we came up with we posed the problem and then what are our outcomes, we knew that we wanted to create a better, more efficient system that's better for students. And just eliminating what I've already talked about, one specialist seeing over 1,000 students over 10 days, giving an opportunity for students and teachers to be together more often, the class sizes being really, really large, over 40 students, and it's really hard for teachers and students when you have class sizes at that rate. And just decreasing the courses taught by more than one teacher. That was something that came out in the feedback. It's hard when one class is being seen by multiple music teachers or multiple FIED teachers with little time to talk to those teachers where they left off. And then another positive outcome is increasing the time we wanted to try to keep as best as we can. We're always trying to keep common prep time for grade level teachers so that they can team during those prep times. And it goes without saying, when a teacher is in the building more often, either all day or more often throughout the day, they develop stronger relationships with kids and with the teachers and their colleagues, and they feel like they're part of a building.
So as part of our research phase and our study and analysis, we did very much like what you heard other people do, reach out to neighboring districts.
And so that to bring them together is more going to be the, hey, we're going to get the individual perspective, and they did collect that in a number of ways. But when it comes down to how does all that mix together, it's the part that they alluded to, and even those comparisons with other school districts, nobody does things exactly the same way in 2 different school districts. How many minutes a day are allotted to literacy blocks, math blocks? What else is in it? Do you have 20 minutes for recess, 30 minutes for recess? There are lots and lots of factors, and so to put it all together and actually do that kind of comparative analysis, you have to have a different perspective, which in our school district, I shared some of this with board members and district leaders. I don't have a plan. I don't have the expertise to do it, but in our district, the people that do have that perspective, that comprehensive, our NICA Summer and our LTE folks, and then our 5 elementary principals who spent much of their adult lives as in the role of principal, looking at those kind of, they're not competing interests, they're all doing great things, but you have only so many minutes of time in a day, So what is that right value to kind of apply? How does it work together? They also are the only ones in our school district who have scheduled elementary buildings, staffed elementary buildings, and bring that as well, so they know the trade-offs because of firsthand experience. So probably a way longer answer than you wanted, but you'll see that in everything that we see and everything that gets brought into this space. And so what I would say is kind of suspend that disbelief, and I love that because I have a lot of that built up in me from all the different academic research of, oh my gosh, you're kind of arguing on behalf of one perspective. Well, that's kind of the nature here, but it's also a big part of why the structure was set up this way, because to get to a productive decision, there's a trade-off involved. If you're actually going to make a change to that 10-day rotation, and you know, there are many different perspectives, and you know, they're all valued and respected, but ultimately, you know, at some point, a group has to come and make a choice and bring that forward to give the board an opportunity to make a decision.
Thank you for your input. I understand that. And of course, I was just coming from a place of objectivity.
Yep.
And for me, the most important thing is hearing things from the very base level, especially, and making sure, because that's the most important input. And the only thing that troubles me is that certain things that haven't been heard from that the ground level, because obviously we appreciate everybody from admin level. However, the people that are working with the students are the ones that are there day by day working with students, the ones hands-on. And so I just want to make sure that every perspective was valued and acknowledged, just moving forward.
Thank you. Shania, do you want to?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I would kind of like to build off of Michelle. And first of all, I truly appreciate the effort of looking at, you know, the long-term impact that this would have on the student body. You know, not just in the next couple of years, but like in the next couple of generations. Like, where would students be in that sense? You know, me personally, when I was in elementary and middle school, I would switch schools literally every 1 or 2 years, and I really lacked the relationship with my teachers that I wish I had back then. Because in my life, teachers are just they've just been so incredibly, you know, important in my development and the friendships I've made. They've really helped me feel feel the belonging in school. And, you know, I would have loved to, you know, from the stuff that I've been reading on these slides and what you guys have been explaining, the 10-day, 4-day rotation in my head makes sense for that teacher development. But I'm also, you know, hearing all these concerns that teachers have about the fact that they feel as if they won't be able to establish a relationship with their kids if the schedule goes into place. So my encouragement in that sense, what I would strongly, you know, hope that you guys do is really make sure that teachers are part of that conversation, like Ms. Michelle said, because these are the people that are on the grounds actively working with these students, and if they see a concern with the current schedule and they're you know, making the effort to come here and vocalize their concern and advocate for their students, there's a reason behind it. And again, in my eyes, I would have loved to have spent more time with my specialist teachers, my art teachers. I wish I'd taken more science classes earlier on in my life. I don't know about computer science specifically, but you know, I wish I had that opportunity. And the schedule looks as if it's going in the right direction, but again, teachers at the ground level have to be involved. And if they see concerns in this, those are legitimate concerns that they're bringing up, and I genuinely think that should be valued.
I'm not seeing any hands. I'm not sure what to say on computer science was though. Go ahead, Joe.
So, being Mr. Negative, let's say 6 months from now, 18 months from now, let's just say it passes, and it's not working. What's the plan then? Is there a plan? Is it we're gonna stick with this because we worked on it for 8 months, or this isn't working, we need to do more research and come up with something better? Is that a plan for the future if it passes and if it doesn't work?
I think we're always about continuous improvement and reflecting. That's what we have to do in order to keep up with the ever-changing world. And all of us, we do that all the time. And so it's and I'm not saying this to you, but it's offensive to think that I wouldn't. That if it were to, like, I could see glaringly it was affecting kids, it was affecting students, that I would say, nope, we're sticking with it because we put all this work into it. So definitely, I mean, would we change something in 2 months? Probably not, because we would give it time. There's going to be, change is hard and it's gonna be a different thing. But I think getting student voices, getting staff voices, looking at data, all types of data points is absolutely what we do. And I feel like we pivot, yes, if there was something that was glaringly obvious that this is not in the best interest of kids.
And pivot was the word I was going to use.
It was?
That was, yes, that was the word 5 years ago. The 2020 word of the year was pivot, I believe.
It's not an old Groucho Marx episode where the word comes down from the sky.
That's the answer I was hoping for, thank you.
I did have a follow-up question to that. So what would, like, indicators of success, quote unquote, be in the long term? Like, when are you looking, is it 8 months, is it 9 months, is it like 2 years? When are you hoping to see sustainable impact, take place? Because the goal with like any initiative is to see impact or change happen in the long term. So
What do you think would be a good?
I mean, for me personally, I talk about this all the time at board meetings and classes, but for me, it's always, I wanna see more kids enroll in higher level classes at the high school, take AP, CIS classes, challenge themselves. But, that is just one perspective of it from an academic point of view. I know there's so much more to going to school. There's the social aspect, there's music, there's the arts. There is, being able to, go to gym and enjoy it and everything and participate in sports. So what are you guys hoping to see in that sense?
Multiple things. I think we have talked about that, we want exactly what you said as far as when we think about the middle and high school opportunities for students to enroll in AP courses and even just looking at the academies. We've already done some research and into middle school, like, because we understand that we're that feeder program, to use the word that you used, into the middle school band. And so what does that look like with music and band and choir and all the options for students, looking at that. I'm interested in science and math data, like how is that going to be affected in a positive way from augmenting the science and technology and engineering and math for our students. So looking at our FastBridge and our MCA scores. They've talked about behavior data. We don't have that data right now, and I can honestly say as a principal, it's never come up to look, is FIED correlated with behaviors, but can we look at it? We look at data all the time. They're in the form of major behaviors that come to us and the calls that we get for behavior support. So lots of different data points, I think, make sense. It just doesn't make sense to do it in 4 months.
Mr. Chair, can I just expand on this line of questioning? It's really measuring the outcome and what we expect the outcome to look to be. We're also talking about, so math is up and running, and I would say the outlook is good based on feedback that I've heard, but the jury's still maybe deliberating. We've got literacy on the horizon, which is going to obviously have potential impact. As we said, anytime you introduce anything new, there's a bit of a curve. Then we're also implementing this. So the challenge is you're muddying the waters to some degree, because is it literacy that's dragging some things down because we have new curriculum? Is it we've just implemented STEM and we've got this big rotation, this change in the specialist rotation? How are we going to differentiate when we're call it measuring success really in parallel for both of those items?
I think that it will take us some time to iron out those measurement tools, different ways that we're looking at that data. I think there are some immediate impacts we can expect after, a certain period of time. It's really hard right now because we don't have a starting point or comparison data in regards to anything related to the 10-day rotation, except the data from the teachers that said it's not working, right? So I think that there's a lot of pieces that we can figure out along the way, some with our groups that we plan to work with in terms of what would those outcome indicators be, some that are gonna be more immediate and some that are gonna take more time. It might take more time to see an impact on registrations for challenging and academic courses, or who's enrolling in our academic courses, challenging academic courses. That may take multiple years before students get there. So there's gotta be some short-term outcomes and then some long-term outcome indicators.
Just one more clarification, maybe I missed it, but I know that, just to kind of go back onto Sharma's point, do you have like an operational definition as to what failure or success might be? Like, is it a criteria list? Like, is it just looking at data holistically? Maybe I missed it, just what are like some specific concrete, what are a framework, I'm guessing, that would say whether or not beneficial or something's not working?
I was gonna interject a couple things along Tim's question line, and Michelle, I'll come back to that. I think when we look at the data we currently have, where we have incredibly strong agreement, parts of the 10-day rotation are absolutely not working and not working well, no matter what data set you use. Having one teacher seeing over 1,200 kids over a 10-day period, tough to make that work. And so we've applied data from a number of research things, and when you see the numbers crossed out and the word viability used, you know, gets into how often a teacher would see that. Tim, I'd muddy the waters even further because we've been doing work, and this again gets into the part of how to pull the pieces out, discrete pieces, and measure, even right now, what is having the impact. That's part of the complexity of running a school, running a district. But I would add, we worked really hard over the last couple months, and our elementary staff and teachers at, let's get our kids off the bus and through the food service lines and into the classroom sooner, because 5 minutes a day over 170 days, that's a heck of a lot of learning time lost. Same with lunch, same with transitions. This is from the same process of that. And nobody broke, you know, that down and said, you know what, those 5 minutes are gonna amount to whatever, 0.20, you know, in terms of an MCA score, fast bridge, because there are other factors. But that's where, when we talked about that data and how you bring that together and tie it together, one of the challenges in education, if you're familiar with John Hattie and research, done meta-analysis and meta-analyses and all kinds of stuff, he would describe it, and I'm paraphrasing, everything in nearly everything in education works. And they draw a line at a correlation between things at 0.4, saying there are a lot of things that work, but if they don't get to 0.4, don't do them. But guess what? There are very few things that have a negative correlation, and literally dozens of things above that 0.4, and that's trying to find that right mix, right place, knowing all those moving parts within a school building, and what to do with that, and how do you bring where you know there's great research that talks about STEM or music and the development, how do you bring these things together, the FIET, the art, plus the literacy and that, and so I think again, that is a complex thing that's hard to break down into its discrete components. But certainly, and I'm going back to Joe's question, absolutely. If you're looking at it going, it doesn't work, or even what are maybe other enhancements? What are things we missed? What else might we want to do? And again, to bring that in. And so that's the really, you know, they do things research-wise where they try to do control groups and bring things out. We can't do that in schools because we can't turn kids into control group subjects. And you can't necessarily pull the component parts out of a kid's brain. And so it is trying to take the folks with the right professional judgment in the right place to bring all that together and bring that forward. And again, we looked at other structures, just like Hattie would say, they probably work. The folks that were in charge of this believe, you know, that what they presented will absolutely work best. So, sorry.
Yeah, of course, I appreciate your answer.
Michelle,
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Oh, no, go ahead, no,
hold your
please,
question.
please.
I'm gonna give Caroline a chance, she's been waiting very patiently here.
Please, my apologies.
No,
go right ahead.
I just wanted to make a comment. I appreciate all, like, the parents and every educator that sent us an email doing so much work. It really is an eye-opening, and I appreciate that information. And to the leadership team for, you know, presenting this and doing all that work. It's great because I can see both sides of the spectrum because, you know, growing up, right, we didn't have the technology, we didn't have the stuff. And I love PE and music and band. So I can see different aspects of why it's important, you know. I also think that kids K through second or at least third, they have a little bit more energy to burn. You know,
they're not as mature as somebody that's in 4th and 5th grade. And then I understand the STEM piece of it because you're trying to make them successful, earlier on, get them understanding problem solving and critical thinking, which is needed for the workforce and to align with the Shakopee Academy. So I understand kind of where we're going, but I wish that there was a happy medium. But, if there was rest assured that if you're implementing this program and it's not working, would you say, you know what, we've realized K through 3rd, they really need 2 days of PE because they've just got so much energy, we see behaviors. Because what I'm concerned about is just the behavior piece, but if we're not even measuring that right now on the off days they don't have PE, we don't have data. But I guess for me, it's more or less like, hey, we've realized we really do need PE. I guess what I would want to know from you is like, you're going to do what's best for the children and not for like the leadership team. That's all I care about. Sorry, I was.
Go ahead, Chrissy.
So one of the comments that was brought up tonight was band, and that wasn't part of a lot of information on the slide. So can you just speak to the plan for band and music at the elementary level? What's gonna happen to band? I know we've covered this, but if there still seems to be confusion as to, will there be 5th grade band? Will there be a large group band? Will it be just individual lessons? We're still gonna be shorted on time. Maybe just give us the final, here's what's gonna happen with band, and we're gonna get together and plan it out.
So next steps for band, Steph Peoples and Becky Lake, I tentatively have them scheduled to come in on February 20th. We also did research collecting information, other districts, and so part of our first step is to analyze our data that we do have on our trends in band and band programming, and look at the students that are starting band, staying with band all the way through the high school. We want to kind of disrupt the pattern we're seeing of declining enrollment with band, so that's one of the parameters. And full band experience, concert experience, additional parameters, and we truly will work with them to design what they think is the best option for our 5th grade students. So we don't have an answer. I really don't have a decision made on what it's gonna look like. Their voices will be critical in developing those programming options.
So, I'm sorry to switch subjects here, but the STEM thing is exciting, it's progressive, and I think that it could be a huge advantage to our kids, or there's a lot of research that shows that it will. My thought is by adding this and potentially having this advantage for our students in the specialist rotation, we're creating other problems, right? We have to take away some traditional specialist items. How much should we bet out just implementing the STEM program into the core instruction throughout the week? I feel like we'd have bigger time frames throughout 4 or 5 potentially school days to get that curriculum, which we don't quite fully know exactly what it is, but we could get that in, and our classroom teachers that are super talented folks could implement that, and we can pull back our specialists, alleviate a lot of the concerns that we have of minimizing FIED and some of those ideas. I imagine it's something that's been thought out, but it was something I realized we hadn't talked about, and to me, I just always like to try to find a solution to a problem. Maybe we're creating a bigger problem by adding an advantage, and we're all juggling whether which is greater, right? And it's hard to tell right without that. Did you guys investigate that?
So to do, I think what you're asking, maybe I'm not hearing that right, so correct me if I'm
STEM
wrong
in the
here.
core instruction.
To put STEM in the classrooms, to do that, something else has to go off the teacher's plate then, absolutely, because they already are, I mean, the feedback they shared with us, not enough time for certain content areas that they are teaching. So I think that was a very careful consideration. We do not want to put more on our classroom teachers' plates We don't want to take out the science that we just adopted and replace it with STEM lessons. There's, you know, some STEM there, but not at every grade level, not in every unit. And we need to keep those because that's our aligned K-12 science curriculum. Taking out math, we're just starting that. That would not be a recommendation I would move forward. And impacting literacy, I just don't know how we could do that without disrupting what we currently have or are looking to implement.
So I'll build off of Nick's question, because this to me is the elephant in the room. Is it comes down to really, if we're just talking about keeping STEM as a specialist, you know, so you've answered Nick's question, STEM versus, you know, as a specialist versus keeping that in the classroom. So if we keep STEM as a specialist and we're increasing that to 25%, it really comes down to me, STEM versus PE. I mean, that's really the heart of the whole matter here, because we're, you know, music's going from 30% to 25% with some challenges that need to be addressed, but I think that's been spoken to. Obviously, we need to get clarity on that, but if that's been spoken to, but PE is taking the biggest hit in this whole thing. And I think the most feedback we've received from everybody, from parents and teachers, both classroom teachers and specialists, is PE. And so what is the justification for increasing STEM to 25% and decreasing PE from 40%? That's, I think, the biggest question for me.
We wanted to go to a 4-day schedule. I mean, we thought that is the best interest of all of the students. They're all equal. I really think the students' experience is gonna be Phi-Ed, music, art, STEM, Phi-Ed, music, art, STEM. And in a week, sometimes they have Phi-Ed twice, and sometimes they have it, if you look back at that 10-day schedule, they have 3 days in between Phi-Ed because of the way we have to do the complexity of a 10-day schedule. And so I really feel like once we get into it, it won't be felt because it'll be like, I'm gonna see you 3 days later, no matter what. And I'm gonna see you, this kid is gonna be like, I'm gonna see you in 3 days. So right now, anytime a student comes in, what specials do I have? They see the art teacher, what specials do I have? Do I have you today? And what did you have yesterday? I had art. Well, what do you have tomorrow? I have STEM. And I think that is what's gonna happen. It's gonna be very predictable for students, very consistent for students. And it feels bigger than it actually is going to be.
Mr. Chair, can I expand on your question? I was thinking kind of on the same lines, and let's just think of it from an elementary perspective. STEM from a K-5 lens versus K-12. And I think it may be a little misleading to say we aren't doing the science and the math today. It's the engineering and the computer science pieces that are really where we need to augment, right? This idea of going from what we're calling 0, which I would infer is some number greater than 0, to 5, is that 1-to-1 at the buildings because the math works out. Is there more of a rollout where you could say, really STEM belongs more, maybe it's 3-5, is it a 0.8 versus a 1.0 at a building level? Is there a strategy maybe to incorporate STEM, but without taking, you know, the huge hit, if you will, from physical education to accommodate introduction of the missing pieces of STEM?
I mean, at some point when you create, because I only did this in my 3rd year, there was a focus on STEM lessons because I've been in the kindergarten classes in media where they're doing STEM lessons, and I was in there today when they were doing coding. And so at some point in Shakopee, there was this is important for kids at all levels to start to get them interested in it.
Oh, I've heard what labels, don't give me
Yeah.
I mean, I hear what you're saying. I think it goes back to the challenges that were identified that we were trying to solve at the time, right? So it is a Jenga board. You pull this here, you pull this here, you don't know when you're pulling the wrong piece and it all collapses. So I think again, after we went through all of these rotations, the study phase, we feel like this is the best option right now. Are we gonna evaluate it? It's part of our compelling mission, right? Our vision statement is change until our systems measurably work for each and every student. So we have every intent to evaluate this to see that it is having a positive impact on students over time.
Can you put either the one with that, the 3 rotations at the end, or all of them? Either one's fine. Yeah, that one. Oh, no, one back. Thank you. I want to go back to Chair Smith's question, and it ties into what you're saying, and it's in there. This would be the scheduling piece. It's not so much 4 days, 5 days. It's the difference between a 4-day rotation and a 5-day rotation. And stop me and correct me if I've got something wrong, but looking at the work, talking with our team here that's put the work together, they drew a really, what I would call kind of a hard red line and said, all right, in the 4-day rotation, we can reduce music from 30% to 25%. But we do not want to reduce band at all. So I'm still puzzled with where we think there's something going on with band. The part of it, you know, and that, if you go to the 5-day rotation, and to me, you know, I'll go back to that other part just a little bit. If we talk teacher FTE, and that is the same, whether it's at 0.4 to 0.47 plus 1.25, that total isn't changing. That's reciprocal with the amount of services we can offer. So I'm missing something in the question. But in the 5-day rotation, the biggest challenge with it is, you know, in the eyes of our expert team, our principals and Mika, is that you are now making a cut to music and band. In other words, you're changing that combination from 30% to 20%, and you're crossing that red line. And that, you know, you can do the first part, you know, to get to 25%, because you do have some efficiencies, travel time, some of that you're eliminating. But there's no way to do that, because band is so embedded in 5th grade, you know, the total 5th grade music package, that if you're cutting a third of music to not cut band, that was seen as crossing that red line. And why? Because otherwise, that becomes viable if you're willing to do that.
I know sometimes we have to just rip the Band-Aid off, but it feels like, I mean, I'm looking at it from a different perspective. I am not opposed to a 4-day, but I think my biggest concern is I think that PE should be offered twice from K through at least 2nd grade, because they're, you know, this is maybe the first time they're getting introduced to sports. My mom is a single mom. I didn't get an opportunity to do things that I wish I was privileged to have. And so, you know, getting that opportunity for children, especially at K through 2, is really important. We can still offer STEM, but not at the math level. I think 3rd through 5th is really good. You're getting them educated into STEM. It is the way of the future. You know, AI, I get that. But I think we should, you know, I don't know, put the horse, I don't, yeah.
Michelle?
Yeah, kind of just to piggyback off of what Caroline and Zelda said, my only concern with all of this is that I understand that there's been a lot of research going into this, but unfortunately, I don't see where the contact is being made among teachers and where that feedback is being listened to. And also, I feel like a lot of things have not been fully thought out, such as operational definitions for what does success look like, or other things such as the band program, the PE program. It just feels like things are already on the way. And I just also want to preface this by saying I'm completely in support of STEM. Like, as a kid, going through math and science classes, I was one time I was in a class of 2 girls and there was 30 some guys, and it was horrible. And this was a STEM class I took in 6th grade, and I know how it is as a woman to be in classrooms where we are the minority and we feel like that's just not right. I'm never ever going to be against that. My just one, like, building off is I'm also concerned as a woman, I'm also concerned about PE, about band, about things that aren't fully reaching the fully looked over, I guess, the fully completed, fully threshed out plan that they should be. Because right now, I just feel like if we go forward and we approve this and make that final destination, now it's just, oh, leadership approved this, let's push this off to teachers, bam, 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 let's work this out. But we should probably more likely do it, taking our time once, than do it twice and have to, you know what I'm saying, mess up the first time. So, and I'm not suggesting that this will mess up or anything. I just think that we should think things through a little bit more, get our things fully threshed out before anything gets set into concrete. That's my opinion.
I hear you about a framework for quality indicators, right? A framework in my mind includes qualitative and quantitative measures, right? We talked about some of those quantitative indicators around some of our critical MCA math and science scores, FastBridge scores, right? We think this will have a positive impact. We don't know. We'll study that over time. We think it's going to have an impact. Your experience with being 2 females in a 6th grade STEM course, that is exactly why we want to start it in kindergarten. For the same reason, I'm not saying physical activity is not important. I think STEM is just as important when we think about what you just shared, being one of 2 females in a 6th grade elective course. Those are the patterns we are hoping to disrupt by putting STEM into that elementary schedule. I think that you have heard from a number of people, we have heard from a number of people, but not all students that are represented in Shakopee, definitely. I don't know if you've heard from a ton of multilingual families, people who the only opportunity their children will get is STEM in school as well, right? So I think there is a wider perspective of students and community members that we're thinking about when we're saying we want to do this for our students.
And I completely understand. I come from a multilingual family myself, and for me growing up, there wasn't a lot of access to things like that. I completely understand your efforts and as you mentioned before, like there's nothing more that I want to change, if anything, than to get more women integrated into STEM. As I've said before, my only concern is that this sounds really great and amazing on the outside. It's just hearing from teachers and getting that one-on-one work has not been completed yet. And because of that, I don't know if getting this permanent proposal pushed through right now is the best opportunity. Maybe in the future, once talking with all the departments is a better choice. I'm not saying this is against. I just want things to be fully threshed out before they're fully realized into a permanent solution.
I think if I can jump here really quickly. I care a lot about like access to advanced education to underserved communities in our district. And you brought up the ML point, that is huge, because right now virtually at the high school it is almost impossible for an ML student to take a math class beyond the pre-calculus level. And I think that build-up has to start, at the middle school level, at the elementary school levels. And again, it goes back to the teacher, like the teachers have to be able to build a relationship with that kid and tell them, earlier on that you can do this problem, you can work on this particular set of math questions, to the point that when they end up in a choice where they have to make a choice, do I take accelerated algebra, do I stick with regular geometry? They pick the higher option. So again, I personally think the 4-day rotation plan, when it comes to exposing students to more STEM opportunities, is good, because like the group has been echoing, it's STEM, the opportunity for many families to expose their children to STEM happens in school, within the school. They don't have opportunities to take STEM classes extracurricular, get involved in different fields in that way. But again, like the group has also been saying, my concern only comes back to making sure the teachers are involved in part of the conversation as well. That's all I have. I commend you guys for all of your effort, because clearly this is a very complex initiative and there's so many moving parts in it. And you guys have the best interests of the students.
Yeah, I haven't spoken at all, so I should probably justify my existence. So as a result of taking notes the whole time, I have questions that are all over the place, so apologies for that. So if the band teachers haven't yet been consulted yet, why is it important to vote on this now?
I personally, I just think like in terms of investing time and talent into developing something that doesn't move forward wouldn't be a good use of resources. So our plan would be to get the approval and then start working with them in the design of the program.
So Nick's question about like, can we integrate STEM in the classroom? And then the response to that being that, well, something else needs to go. But yet, one of the selling points of STEM is that it's interdisciplinary. So wouldn't you be able to just marry it up with existing things?
It would.
Swinging really hard today, sorry.
No, could we? I think as Dr. Redmond said, we could do anything. That would take time again and money and resources to redesign what we have spent years designing for our elementary teachers when it comes to implementing their science curriculum, their math curriculum.
Which are new.
I hear what you're saying, and that would be a wonderful opportunity if we had a STEM school or, where everything is looked through that lens of STEM. We don't currently have that, and we were cost neutral in our proposal. So I think that is why we would not recommend doing that at this time.
There are also digital literacy and cyber safety standards too that were in addition that would have to be put back into the classroom. That are a little bit different than STEM, more like, well, digital literacy, so that the teachers would have to absorb that.
I think this is my last one. So, to Caroline's point, we're acknowledging that band is important at the 5th grade level, but we haven't yet seen any acknowledgement that there are other grade-specific needs, like that younger kids need to move more. The other thing I saw was in the teacher feedback was collected. The details that I saw was like, it was just summarized, but all of the summaries from every school indicated PPE. We're inundated with parent feedback to say, like, make sure we keep band and PPE. So I think we need some assurance why. Oh, and so okay, I'll finish what I'm saying before I say the next thing. We need some reassurance why things are not going to fall apart if left we lose PE a little bit.
Can you tell me what fall apart means?
Sorry, I was being over dramatic and silly. That it won't be that bad. People are just really concerned that my kid needs to move more. The behaviors are going to become, there's going to be worse behavior in schools. I think that's the main one that's top of mind for the feedback that I'm getting.
And Steph, can you give the example we talked about this morning, coming from your other experiences?
So I have another experience in another district that I was in for 22 years. They have a, not very popular here, specialist rotation called the 21-day rotation. And so I lived through that. And so that means the class has 21 days of art in a row, 21 days of music in a row, 21 days of Spanish in a row, and 21 days of FIAD. And then they repeat that. Specialists like that, because as an art teacher, you just get them for, right? Like, you're coming back, we're gonna do this project. Spanish really like that, to really build on that. But the hard part was the FIAD. However, we didn't really see, nor did teachers bring it to our attention, and I was associate principal for 4 years, including before and after COVID, more behaviors when they weren't in FIAD. FIAD is so important. I just feel bad that I feel like people think that I hate FIAD, and I love FIAD. I was an athlete. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying the correlation with behaviors is something else. Like, we have more recess and FIAD in Shakopee, and I would say I don't have less behaviors that I'm responding to right now with similar demographics. ML, special education, free and reduced. So again, I don't wanna compare apples to apples, apples to oranges any more than other people are doing that too. That's just my experience. And we do have the data, we just haven't like really looked into it because I think it'd be futile to look up whether or not a student who had FIAD first had behaviors after that day compared to a student who had FIAD last, did they have behaviors that day, or a student who didn't have FIAD that day.
I will just share, we had a parent, in our district advisory council that spoke about, her child's experience, and it was not necessarily about the 50 minutes of PE. It was about regular intentional movement throughout the day, and that is what helped her child be successful in school. And I think that our teachers right now do an amazing job of watching and responding to those student needs on a daily basis. You know, they are very cognizant of kids sitting too long, needing a break, and they do really wonderful things throughout the day to give them those mental breaks, those physical movement breaks that are needed.
Okay, one more thing, it's super short. So Stephanie, I think you said students already are doing like 3 days in between PE.
In some cases, because we can't do like with 5, it's hard to do day 1 is music, day 2 is art, day 3 is science, day 4 is right.
But like currently that's in the 10-day cycle,
Yes.
that's the longest somebody's gonna go without seeing.
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to call that up.
So if you like took a 5-day chunk, there's some weeks where they have 2 days of FIAD.
Okay. That was my list.
Just, I don't have any questions, but more comments, I guess, after really hearing everyone's discussion, about this topic. I think, I appreciate all the work that's gone into this. I appreciate every email that I've received, all of the phone conversations that I've had, and for taking time to talk to me. I think after the last meeting, there was one voice that I didn't really get a whole lot of feedback from, and that was the classroom teachers. And so in between our time last meeting to tonight, I did spend time speaking with classroom teachers. And, you know, it really was kind of a mixed message in a way, just because of the grade levels, I think. To Caroline's point of the younger learners are more rambunctious, we know that. Where the older elementary kids are either more mature and can sit longer and have a longer attention span in the classroom. You know, I think, Sean, you said it pretty early on in our conversation tonight that when we were at our leadership conference for MSBA about a month ago, the closing speaker was all about building relationships with students. And at the end of the day, it's about the students and that they're cared for and loved. Nothing else matters, because if you can do that with your students, everything else is gonna really help take place. And that goes to learning, improvement. I mean, he had all kinds of examples and data of how, when you do that, how test scores improved in his school that he taught in. I won't go on and on, but you know what, what's being proposed and what we talked about is really, we're thinking, for the most part, the now. And I think we forget about what the impact is on student learning in the future and what will best prepare them for their futures, not my future, but their future. The kids that are in our elementary schools, what is the world gonna look like for them in 20 years when they're graduating from college? I hate to think about that. Because I grew up without technology, and look at where we are today. Technology isn't going away. And I also know that, I'm supportive of STEM. I have a child that's that's in engineering school. graduate of Shakopee schools. The importance of STEM and those careers. I have great friends that are engineers, not computer science, but civil and mechanical. They can't find workers. We need more women. We just need people in those fields. And I also know that the computer science curriculum is being discussed at the legislature. That's coming. That is going to be, unfortunately, another thing that's going to be put on schools in the near future. How do we incorporate computer science into our schools? Just like the READ Act, we just implemented a new math curriculum. So I don't think we can ignore STEM. And it's unfortunate that something is going to have to give in order to give our students the best chance at learning experiences. I don't want to cut PE. I mean, I was an athlete. I was in 3 sports in high school. Sports was my life. I grew up in a small town. That's all you did. I always had a ball in my hand. And so that's what makes this really, really difficult for me, because I have it on both sides of the equation. I have a child that's doing well through STEM, and then I know my experiences. And so, you know, just one last comment. Having teachers incorporate STEM into their regular classroom curriculums, we're asking our teachers to do so much already. And to ask them to do that on top of it, to me, that's overload. They're already overloaded. We're incorporating 2 new big curriculums in our district. One is our own math, because it was needed, but the other one is the state requirement for the READ Act. Those are huge, heavy lifts, regardless of what grade you're in. I could not consciously put something else on our classroom teachers right now. That wouldn't be fair to them. And I don't think it's fair to our students, because something's gonna get shortchanged. Because there's only so many minutes in the day. So again, I appreciate everybody's passion for this, because this is not an easy decision. I've spent hours on this, and I think all of us probably have. So thank you for answering all the questions over the past couple weeks as well.
Again, like a little bit more of a statement than a question. I've never been more excited to be a school board member than I am today. And the reason for that is I literally have heard from so many people that care so much about our schools, from the leadership team to your guys' group, teachers, students, parents, but realistically, the voices that are the loudest are the teachers. And they are counted. I mean, I had lots of conversations, we've all had the emails, great research done. And I know we've all talked about this, and this isn't directed directly at you two, it's the whole team and the whole strategy here. You guys are asking for our buy-in on your system and plan, which is great, but I really would love for you guys to get your staff's buy-in. Meet with them, get their input, have them more part of this process, have them on board, not emailing us, emailing you guys as to how can we make this work? It's not gonna be perfect, we all know that, and I think they're all realistic enough to know that they're gonna have to have some gives and takes to make this work, but I feel like we're directing this at the wrong party, really. Like, it shouldn't be can be ultimately our decision, but that to me is like the biggest problem with this whole strategy of rollout, is just get their buy-in. It'd be like having a team and handing them the playbook and no practice and say go win, like let's get them involved. That's my ask to you guys. That's to me one of my biggest hangups of this whole thing. And it's not specific.
No,
to you
I
two,
know,
right?
I know,
Okay.
I have to be honest,
Yeah.
I thought we did that the last 2 weeks with the feedback loop. I don't know who's reaching out to you, I only can speak to the fact when we looked at our analysis of teams or teachers that came forward, there were 8 that met with their principals, gave that direct feedback, and I think they brought solution-oriented feedback to their building leaders. And every one of those, cycles that they recommended were things that we had also already looked at. So I can only speak to the voices I've heard from. I have a couple high school teachers I've talked to about this, and I think after meeting with them, their questions were answered, and I think they were fine with it. So I feel like we've tried. I don't know, I can't speak to who's reached out to you specifically, but.
Yeah, I agree. The last 2 weeks, it seems like there was more interaction there, but this started 8 months ago, or I think, the majority of this group. So the surveys and things like that are great starting points, but the actual meetings, the actual details, laying this particular schedule on a calendar and having a little more concrete plan that they all recognize, understand, we could maybe more easily recognize and understand. That's all my statement. Again, it's not that lack of effort. You guys all have jobs. You guys are principals and leaders of, our district. So I mean, we're all dealing with this on a secondary level too. Like this has become a second job for 2 months or for 2 weeks, but again, I'm excited about it because people care that much and they just want to see it from all sides. Think about that happen. So appreciate it.
Tim.
A couple unrelated questions. We did hear from Mr. Taylor, just with respect to the band, we know there's a lot to unpack there, but is it fair to say that the number of minutes of band and its new construct, the before and after, are we saying it's going to be equivalent? Right? This comes back to when we put forth the questions for our operating levy, we were going to restore a 5th grade band. That was one of the monikers of that. And so we want to make sure that we're delivering the same level or better level of service. I think we all collectively agree separating band from music is the right choice in this context. That's the first question. Completely unrelated, but more so, we heard from Ms. Dorn, who did an incredible job speaking for someone who's not comfortable in front of the camera, around special education and students with special needs, and reducing physical activity can certainly be exacerbated for students with some of that, ADHD. They just need more support. So are there going to be mechanisms in place to accommodate our special ed students outside of this rotation? So you can answer it whatever order you.
I'd say we already have that in place. A lot of times in their individualized education plan, their IEP, those are in place. There's lots of movement. We have movement spaces in our buildings dedicated for students who need extra movement. I have sensory paths. I have a Zen den to calm them down. I have 2 motor rooms right now. Just fortunate to have kind of that space for that movement. And a large population of our special education students utilize that. And so we do that all the time, just naturally.
That's supposed to be an easy question. We had to give you, something. Right. And then, I know, the band is, it's hard because that construct isn't in place. Can we have assurance? Third, there is going to be a plan, but you don't know what it is, and is it going to be equal to or better, in fairness to our band students, right? That's the outcome. But we also have a, contingent, we have individuals who voted to have 5th grade band restore.
This is probably gonna be a non-answer, because I will tell you, I think the critical piece that when I was talking with Steph Peoples, it was about the FTE.
Yeah.
And that there was an assurance that we aren't reducing what is currently living or borrowing from music FTE. And I felt like after speaking with Steph Peoples, who is one of the elementary band teachers, when she heard that, we don't know what it's gonna look like. She will design it, but that FTE is still going to be there.
So right now, students have lessons throughout the day, and they're scheduled, that the 3 teachers have that lesson probably posted on, and the kids know, and then they go down to get their individual lessons, and so that will continue, and then what full band or rehearsal will look like is.
That's the piece that's still under development, but
the FTE
is still
there.
So I have a couple of quick comments, no real questions. Actually, I do have one question at the end. So this is all about removing the 10-day, which does not work. We've seen the slide. it's very inconsistent. The one thing about the 4-day rotation, it's very consistent. And to a point, young kids and even adults, especially accountants, love structure. Where this says this, and it's just, they're gonna know. It's very consistent. Is it the best? We don't know. But the 4-day seems to be the better option than the 10-day. As I asked in my question, it seems to be about an hour ago, will you pivot if it doesn't seem to be working? And they gave a great answer. Yes, of course, because we're going to look to see what has happened. It seems like they have structures from when there's a slide in there where we're gonna meet, we're gonna try to have band done by April 1st, and my screen just went away and I had it on there. There we go. STEM, the timeline. I mean, the timelines are there, and I think that if it does pass, the board would love an update every couple of months on where we are with this. So we would invite, if it does pass, we would invite you back to give us updates just to alleviate any questions and concerns that we might possibly have.
I would say, like, definitely, and it doesn't happen often in districts. They don't look at their special schedule, but I know for sure now we will because of everything that's been happening in the last 2 weeks. But I was just at the Minnesota Elementary School Principal Association conference, and I saw a buddy who is in a district that has 5 days, and I'm like, hey, how's your schedule? How's your special schedule? It's 5 days, it's a nightmare. Well, it just because they have 5 days doesn't mean that it's also, they're thinking that it's best for kids right now. And I didn't even go into what's going on. It's just like, it's a nightmare to schedule, to do, for kids. And, so I think it's good that everybody is asking these questions, and I can assure you that we'll be looking at it from all different angles.
Just one thing, because I'm also taking notes and just trying to hear everybody. There's been lots of really great points, and just first of all, I want to stress that I've heard from Ms. Peterson the whole thing about the state is coming to us with a new STEM plan, and I understand that this is of utmost importance. As I think I previously said, it's touched me personally, right? This is an issue that obviously STEM, like as Charlie said, also STEM is something that boosts our kids, especially those are marginalized groups. It boosts them into the AP classrooms and into the AP advanced curriculums. However, I just do want to I want to touch on another couple of points as Mr. Zitek pointed out is teachers haven't been talked to about this. Teachers have not been really reached out to at many points in this entire process. And another point I'd like to point out is I was just listening about the question that Mr. Beaufort pointed out is that if the band thing isn't fully processed out, fully threshed out, why the importance, and this one has Chad said, so why the importance to get voted today? Things aren't fully yet done, and why are we pushing to get a permanent solution to things that still aren't temporarily ready? Why now?
Well, the proposal that was brought was to pull band out of the specialist rotation, right? So that's what you're voting on.
But also
And the 4-day.
And the 4-day.
Because one of, and I know you weren't here last time, but one of the big problems with keeping them as part of the rotation is you can't predict how many students are gonna enroll in band at any site, and so sometimes you have 45 and sometimes 20.
Sure, right, yeah. No, I understand. It's just, well, I mean, that was the one question I had. The next part, I'm just kind of commenting, I guess, what's that is everyone else's concerns. It's just the idea that our teachers need to be a pivotal part about this as well. And therefore, I would like to see that maybe, as I was looking through the slideshow as well, and on the slideshow, you mentioned that out of, it was 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, those are the current ones that I saw in there, but of course you also added, there's many others that we haven't talked about. And so, I'm curious to see in the future, maybe, I understand that this is a give and take, not everyone's gonna be happy, but maybe there is a solution working with our teachers that is a better solution than this right now. We don't have to all of a sudden flock over to the 4-day plan. It does sound very good and idealistic. Maybe there's something we can work out with our teachers and hearing from people that are on the ground. Another solution that isn't maybe even listed on this presentation, something else that is more efficient, because at the end of the day, we're just trying to help students, and there's so many different benefits, but there's also so many different cons. I'm just trying to be here and trying to get a holistic view, trying to get everybody's voices included to make sure that there isn't really a skewed opinion or skewed push towards one idea or the other.
question. I just have one last comment, and this is just for my own headspace, because I am like literally on the fence. At one point, we say, this is the plan, there is no other plan. And then we say, if this doesn't work, we can pivot. And it kind of aligns with what Michelle just said. Well, if this is the only plan, then there is no other option, but wait, there could be if we need to pivot. So what, like, it almost seemed like contradictory. It's more rhetorical, so I don't expect a response, but that's what I'm really struggling with. What would be that pivot, and would it be, we'll just pull back on STEM and put PE back if we need to, or we'll do the K2, or like, again, rhetorical. That's, what we don't know is how much PE is just enough. We know it's good, but how much reduction can be taken without doing, unintended consequences was was phrased last 2 weeks ago. But we're saying we're going all in. STEM is the future. 100% agree. We should be looking 20 years ahead. And hopefully, if computer science becomes a standard, it's also funded, right? So that would also change the dynamic. Right? I can hope, right, Dr. Redmond?
I love your optimism.
Yeah. Well, so, and that would change the dynamic too, because if there were other funding mechanisms specifically for STEM curriculum, whether it's, grants, which is one-time money, you have to be careful with that, or long-term, that's just, again, I just needed to say that, because that's what I'm processing.
Any comments on that? Are there any other questions? Okay. Then I would say that the next step is that if the questions are done, so we have as a motion and a second from the last meeting, which is now before us again, is the recommendation from last meeting, and I wish I would have printed out the exact verbiage, but correct me if I'm wrong, but the motion and the second for last meeting was to vote on 2 points, move from a 10-day to a 4-day rotation, and then the second bullet was remove band from the specialist rotation and provide it through another means. And I don't have that wording exact. Oh, here it is. Thank you, Dr. Evans. I will read this because this is what was motioned and seconded at the last meeting.
That's right,
Yeah. So change structure of the specialist rotation, move from a 10-day to a 4-day rotation, which is what we have up there, and then move full band outside the specialist rotation. So it was that simple. So that was what we motioned and seconded on last meeting, and then we motioned to postpone to tonight. So that is the question before us. Before we get into discussion, I would entertain a motion to amend the question to reflect the new verbiage.
I'll make that motion.
So we have a motion by Peterson.
I'll second.
We have a second by Aldridge. So we are now voting on the amendment to the question for the new verbiage of move from a 10-day to a 4-day rotation, and a study group, band teachers, principals, and LTE will work to develop a system which retains full band and no longer adversely impacts the class sizes in other specialist areas. So we have a motion and a second on the amendment. Is there any discussion on the amendment?
One quick thing here, Jeff, just to be clarified, this is a package deal, right? We're voting on both of these together. It's not, the movement from the 10-day to the 4-day and the band again, those are.
It's one vote for
One
both.
vote for both. One vote for both, and then are we gonna have time to elaborate as to what our reasonings is that we vote, or do you want that out?
Well, so we're just voting on the amendment to change the wording, and then we'll be voting on the overall action item of the new wording, assuming the amendment passes. And we'll have plenty of time to discuss.
Yeah. And Mr. Chair, the change to the wording, there was some confusion 2 weeks ago that band was going away. And that was not the messaging we intended to send, so this was just to clarify, band is being pulled out as part of the music special, and it will be handled independently. Is that correct? That's why that verbiage is there.
Okay, so any further discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Amendment passes. So this is the new question before us now, as stated on the slide. Discussion.
What happens if we don't know? What are the next steps?
I don't know. I mean, that's, you know, the charge was for this group, and I think I shared that, you know, was to fix the 10-day rotation and come back with the best solution to that. The group did their work, came back with a choice. They didn't come back with multiple choice. That was part of the work, again, over the last 2 weeks, was, is this a clear first choice? And the answer was yes. And so, at this point, I think the honest answer is, don't know. I mean, there's not a, you know, that's part of, you know, the board reached a consensus somewhere, but trying to, you know, I think a lot of the work over the last 2 weeks was trying to explain the nuances of the trade-offs, and none of them are without pain.
Can I try to answer the question? The 10-day rotation would be in effect for the 25-26 school year, and there may or may not be a proposal in the next 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 1 year from now to change it to something. It could be the same exact proposal, or they might stay with the 10-day. That's what happens if you vote now.
And, Mr. Chair, just to kind of Mr. Zivic's question, would there be any value in saying, should the band group meet first and at least outlay a plan, and then incorporate that, and then come back and vote on, is that really the issue? If we have assurance that band is gonna be preserved, we have the FTE, and I think we know enough to say, but would that help if we say, let's make sure we sort that out and then come back and vote on the overall 4-day? Or is it really, we're concerned about the FIAD trade with STEM? I'm not advocating that we separate these two, but potentially we could vote to say, let's do the band work first and then come back. Is there any other work that gets delayed if we were to postpone just until we had more clarity on that? And would it add value?
Can you put up the next step slide again, please, and then come back to this?
Yeah, I don't want to impact the timeline, right? There's a lot of work that needs to happen.
Yeah, and I'm gonna, you know, even just this evening, in our personnel committee, we talked about a staffing timeline. That's the first thing that comes to my mind. We talked about that really begins in earnest on March 1st. It's been worked on since November. I think, you know, this timeline by April 1 was shortened with the 2 weeks. I think that's really pushing it. I think that it creates some real logistical challenges. And again, I respect the thought there, but there's probably other things not even popping, you know, in my mind. And when we do staffing, and this is part of the Wednesday, all the different component pieces are interrelated. I asked some of those questions, you know, of that group. They have, you know, when you look at the teacher-driven team, you know, people have asked, well, why don't you do that? That's time intensive, it takes that. I believe within those parameters, I have every confidence that group will come up with a good plan in that timeline.
Yeah, and that's fair. Now, just to clarify, I was saying the band work could, you know, start today. If we were to say, yeah, go, do a go get, and almost get band stand on its own. Is it tied to the same 4-day rotation, or from its own construct if it's being pulled out of the specialist area? Does it even need to conform to that schedule? Recognizes there's complexities with music and you're doing in the group, you know. It almost feels like that work is autonomous from the 4-day rotation. But I mean, I don't know how started before we know what's happening in music, for example.
I just have a calendar question. When is spring break?
First week of April.
First week of April.
So really, April 1st being a Tuesday, is that during spring break?
It's great.
Yes. So really, it's not April 1st, it would be March 29th. Which is this Saturday. Yeah, 27th, whenever it is. So it's actually almost a week shorter than April 1st.
And again, this.
And they're all going, thanks for pointing that out.
And this didn't get changed from last time, and that might actually be too short. Be a concern.
I'll just say that I supported this at the last meeting, and I support it again tonight. We have to do something. And pushing this out and pushing it out and pushing it out does not really solve anything. We need to make a decision. The teachers need to know we have staffing that has to be done. We know the timelines. We knew even 2 weeks ago when this was presented that this was gonna be tight. And so I support this. I'll leave it at that.
Nick, I'd like to speak to that. Part of what you mentioned earlier, Christie, is the most important part of this whole piece are the kids, right? That they're loved and cared for, and that's the reason we do all this. And speaking as a parent of two that are currently in the elementary and the current 10-day rotation, it's not a problem for the kids. They love their music teachers, art teachers, FIA teachers, media teachers even. They enjoy that process. I don't think that this whole problem was created by the kids, essentially. I know that there are improvements that can be made. We've all discussed that. Everyone in the room agrees on that. Secondly, you look at the teachers, right? The frustrations of the travel and not having quite as consistent a rotation with the 10-day, problematic for sure. But the outpouring that I've heard personally as a board member is that the teachers don't love the proposed change. And obviously, clearly, administration would love the change. As leaders of this is the biggest part of the problem, is the difficulty staffing, the difficulty of scheduling, clearly a problem as well. But to me, if I'm weighing the challenges of the 10-day schedule and as it sits right now for the kids from the ground up, compared to the unknowns with this proposal, the work yet to be done, the work in progress as we discussed, the timing of it, for me, those are the two alternatives, is stand pat until we can figure this out not perfectly, not doesn't mean perfectly, but as a congruent team, I would prefer to stay in the 10-day schedule until we get this out and figured out. Would I love that everybody can work together again to maybe get another proposal in before next year? Maybe. I know that's a daunting challenge, right? And it might be the exact same thing. I don't know. I don't have that crystal ball. But for me today, with the amount of unknowns, I can live with the band that we have the assurance that we're going to bring it back in full. I trust that you guys will do that. And you can't say that in public and not do it, right? So we'll do that. It's, to me, the biggest thing is the 10-day schedule to the 4-day schedule, losing the FIED. Some concessions need to be made. Those two outcomes, we're standing pat rather than going to this until we have more information. And that's not to discredit the work and what you guys have done. And I applaud you two for sitting here with 7 people that made this decision. You know, all 7 of you could be sitting here taking the heat. So I don't discredit that. They all are. I know.
All right, thank you, Nick. So that was spoken in opposition. Does somebody want to speak in support? Okay, I will. So specialists, it's 250 minutes per week. That's what we're talking about, it's 250 minutes. And how do we divide that up? There is not enough minutes to give everybody what they need. We've seen the CDC studies, we've heard from the music specialist. I received an email from an art specialist and a media specialist who provided a really awesome slide deck on what media does. It was very educational. They all have great justification for what they do, and they're all right. Every single one of them is correct. I would love to give 250 minutes to each of them. So how do we do that? We can't. There's just a finite number of minutes in the day. We're currently giving 100 minutes per week to FIED. CDC says 150, so we're already well under what the CDC says for that. Music 75 minutes per week. That doesn't sound like a lot to me. Art 50 minutes per week, and media only 25 minutes per week. And and then we've heard the stories of how many students they have to see spread out and travel to do that. It sounds like they're doing awesome with what they're given, but I think a lot of improvement can be made there. Every teacher is passionate about their subject and will rightfully defend it. And I would question you if you didn't. I mean, obviously you want to be passionate and speak for your subject. So I would fully expect that. So my other thought, back to some earlier conversation from a few people is, we should have consulted people. Well, there was a survey put out, and we've all seen the results from that from specialists. A majority replied, but far from everybody. But it was an anonymous survey, and there was a lot of detailed feedback provided in that survey that provided a lot of information on how the current 10-day rotation is a mess, and the challenges that some of those individual specialists face. And these are the specialists. I mean, we've heard from the classroom teachers as well, but the specialists, what I'm focused on, we want what's best for the students, but we want to do right by the specialists who are involved in this specific issue. It really resonated with me when they could contribute anonymously about their issues on the challenges they face, because they would spend, to hear from one tell it, they would spend their first several minutes of the day figuring out what they were even going to do, because the rotation was so complex. So they weren't even necessarily sure when they got up in the morning which school they were going to be at, and how they were going to have to coordinate across with different specialists that multiple teachers teaching the same subject at a location. That really resonated with me, that it convinced me that this 10-day rotation needs to go. So I'm convinced of the problem. So then the question is this proposed solution the right solution? It goes back to my question, but my only question to you tonight, which was the elephant in the room. We're shrinking PE by a lot and increasing STEM by a lot when we're not 100% sure what that STEM looks like. So that to me is the biggest issue. Band, respectfully, I think we're getting there. I think that can be clarified. So that to me is PE versus STEM. That's my sticking point, what I go back to. But I mean, you gave a really good presentation tonight, and you spoke to STEM more so than 2 weeks ago, where that question was simply not answered and left me really feeling in doubt about it. But I feel a lot better about that now tonight. So then it comes back to, can we survive with PE 66.7 minutes a week, which is what we're going down to. 100 minutes down to 66.7. I don't know, 100 minutes isn't enough. So, and say, okay, well, yeah, it's bad, but do you want to make it even worse? Well, no, but you're not going to, with 100 minutes in a week today, you're not going to produce the next Wayne Gretzky. I mean, if we got Wayne Gretzky and Shakopee, they're already skating at 3 years old, right? They're not starting at elementary school to learn what hockey is, through floor hockey or whatever. And I love floor hockey growing up, but I didn't become Wayne Gretzky from it. So that's what I'm left with. And I think with 250 minutes that we have to divide out and to make it efficient across 4 specialists, the 4-day rotation fits with 4 specialists. It allows you to switch out if you need to. If you've got a concert coming up, you can give 2 or 3 days in a row of band practice and swap out with other specialists without having to juggle, because I can't imagine how you do that in a 10-day rotation. It just sounds like a nightmare. But obviously groups are going to be, particularly PE is going to be hurt by this, and I absolutely hear that, and yeah, it's just I get it, but I think the presentation has demonstrated what we're getting for that, And, so I speak in support and, hope, yes, vote.
Well, I can just make a simple comment. There's two things that schools and people in general don't have enough of, time and money. And we don't have enough time, we have a finite amount of hours in the day, minutes in the day, and it's broken down. And we just need to use that time to be the most effective and efficient that we possibly can. And I'm hoping that the research that the team has done is correct. And so I will be voting yes on this.
I think where I struggle is, like, I do want a 4-day rotation, it makes sense, it's efficient. But what I really struggle is that we ask our children to think outside the box, be creative, you know, this is what this whole STEM is about, partner, teamwork, collaboration. But yet, we're saying, like, it's all or nothing, 1 day of PE, that's it. We're not even, as adults, saying, hey, let's look as a compromise. When I go to work, I have to compromise with my you know, the people I work with. We collaborate, we talk through things, and I truly believe K through 2nd really need 2 days of PE. And I don't understand why there's no compromise of, like, you know what, maybe to make this work, we will amend it. We'll have 2 days of PE, K through 2nd, and then we're gonna start at 3 through 5th. That's what I don't understand. As adults, why aren't we, like, listening to teachers, the parents, and really bring it forward? This is where I struggle. I mean, if you're asking me, like, it's all or nothing, like, that's so not fair to me that you're putting me in this predicament. It's all or nothing because nobody wants to compromise. I would have to say no. Like, it's a partnership, and I don't feel like it's a partnership.
Mr. Chairman, but you took the words out of my mouth. I was trying to think through, if we've already acknowledged that 100 minutes is below the recommendation, and we're taking it further with the intent to do no harm, but to ultimately add STEM, the all or nothing approach, and that we're expecting good outcomes on top of clearly other moving parts, a lot of other things to measure. And this district has done a lot of amazing things as firsts. What was it, the first district to be heart safe, if I'm remembering, Tiffany, your fact checking. AEDs, like that training, amazing, right? We're the first, if I'm not mistaken, only public building with a smudging center to recognize our Indigenous students. Like, what an incredible first. We'd be the first district to be cutting FIED to this level. Tell me another district, at least a neighboring district, that would have equal to or less FIED than what we're proposing in their specialist rotation. Are we willing to sign up for that significant reduction in FIED when the Johns Hopkins University and our own Mayo Clinic says FIED's important, not just recess, not just activity. And we're gonna say, we're okay with that because we can make STEM work. And I agree, like, can't there be something in the middle? Does it have to be 5 FTE in STEM? Can it be a 0.8? Which still mathematically works out to the number 4 if you have 5 buildings, right? Can it be some other hybrid model where it's K through 2? And if it's already been reviewed and we just haven't seen it, it would be helpful, but I'm not convinced we've tapped all our resources.
Can I ask a point of clarification? On the 21-day schedule, isn't FIED 25%?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And some of the districts too, they have like FIED for 25 minutes.
So they're doing less per class, but, and I think I've heard on one of our neighboring districts, they do just 30 minutes, but they do it all 5 days, so then you still get to the magic 150. And I don't know that there's, again, I don't know that we know how much FIED is just enough, right? how much is adequate. And everyone's gonna say, Dr. Redmond, you're really eloquent. We're gonna say, gosh, we need to do more FIAD. Mr. Aldridge, I think we just tap into the unassigned fund balance and we just do it all. Is that a good idea? I did that just for you. Of course, we're not gonna do that, but, have we exhausted all the other options? And it's not in any way a reflection on the incredible work that's been done here. I just don't know if we're signing up for this great unknown, the future.
If you want, can we put the rotation, all of them up there? Yes, because having vetted the work of this group, and again, have they looked at all of the rotations? I would never answer that because that's a setup. All is probably impossible. Have they looked at different, blending of that, the K2, 3-5? Yes, that was part of the conversation even over the last 2 weeks that we asked again. There are compelling reasons for STEM in K1 and 2 as well. It's not clear cut. And then this is not an exhaustive list, with the exception of the Eden Prairie where they split it into 4 groups, which is that, it's an extended 4-day rotation, 25% each. Almost every other rotation that people use breaks down into some combination of this. There was one put out that they called it a 4-day rotation with an AB schedule. Well, for the FIAD and STEM that are paired together, that is in essence an 8-day rotation. It did decrease FIAD from 40% to 37.5%. It increased STEM from 10% to 12.5%. So instead of that one teacher seeing 1,200 kids over 10 days, that teacher would now see over 960 kids over 8 days, which is why, kind of that line of viability. And so I have great confidence that they have looked through, they've looked at different things, creative, and again, that doesn't mean they can't look further, they can't do more, but they're trying to solve a problem that if it was easy to solve, and I would say, yeah, they've been working on it intensely for 8 months, some of them worked on it for the last 3 years, it's a known problem. There have been lots and lots of opportunities for folks to come up and go, yep, we have the magic solution, the absolute perfect solution. I don't think that exists. They believe the solution they brought forward. I believe it after questioning them doing that it is the best choice for out of a set of really imperfect choices. And there are different ways to cut and dice that. They all come with trade-offs. None of the trade-offs are good. The trade-off here that I think Chair Smith pointed out hits FIAD most, well, guess who we've heard from the most? FIAD. That makes sense, and at this point again, I wouldn't respect you if you weren't here challenging that and bringing that out and bringing that to light, because obviously you believe in your specialty area. I think if we were doing the things in reverse, we were, if the world was reversed and we were cutting STEM from 40 to 25%, we'd have a room full of folks that support STEM just like that. So I think they have done that work, they have exhausted that work. And again, I don't think there's a perfect choice. I believe they have brought and again, they have unique perspective. I get to ask them questions, I get to learn more about that. What they believe is the best proposal, having weighed things over an extended period of time, having reweighed a lot of those things, looked at those things, received, asked people for feedback, solution-based, and we can take those and you could roll through all of them, and that was the attempt of this, to give a kind of a sampling that is representative of the challenges with each. And also to share, and I think you did a great job of, hey, these were the trade-offs. We think this trade-off, even though it's lousy for some parts, is the best of those choices that are imperfect.
Can I weigh in on this, or is this, I'm not sure, am I able to weigh in on this?
Sure.
Sure, so, just a couple things, I'm trying to, again, hearing things, not writing things down. I understand the
time is of the essence. We don't want to keep pushing this on because again, we're going to get stuck into a solution. There is not a perfect solution like Dr. Redmond said. There's not something where it's cut and dry and it's all, everyone is happy. We're never going to find something like that, unfortunately, because this is the world we live in and we are confounded by the physics and the principles of dying. However, one thing I do want to say is that while I do appreciate all the hard work that's been going into this, the one thing that is missing is where we believe, and this is not like a personal or anything, but what you might think, what the team might believe is best is not 100% also representative of also the teachers' voices. And those, because those also have to be taken into effect because these are the people that we're exactly reaching onto. And of course, we don't want to continue pushing this off, but I do believe that we don't want to do things once, mess it up, and have to do it again. Not saying that this will mess up, but why are we going to compromise our children? I don't have children. Why are we going to compromise our students into going into what could haphazardly could possibly be a fail or possibly even a success? Who knows? Why could we not take the extra little bit of time that it takes to make sure that we fresh things out, look at all the opportunities that even Mr. Brophy laid out. Why are we not taking this time now? The time is of the essence, but right now, are we going to put time ahead of compromising our students and making sure that they get the best possible education and making sure that they're not at the fault or at the brunt of what could potentially be either the best or the worst outcome? I think that's what I'm really struggling with. I know I'm not voting, but this is just the concerns I hear because as a student, I'm also here to represent the students. And having gone through this elementary school wise, I don't want to see my fellow peers have to feel the weight of this. Having gone through band, having gone through FIED, and my teachers who I hold so dearly, these are people that we cannot just put a permanent solution and then have them figure it out. It's not something that we cannot go so quickly into. It's something that we have to take time with. And yes, we're not going to put this off till next year. Hopefully, we're choosing between a rock and a hard place. Put it off till next year, like Mr. Aldridge say, or do it now. But is that really the only two solutions we can find? Is that all we have here? Can we not compromise, like Ms. Valdez said? Is there not a middle ground we can find where everybody at least is a little bit more happy in their situation? That's all I'm saying.
And that's why we gave the 2 weeks. I think that's why the school board decided to postpone it for 2 weeks to give people an opportunity to come up with solutions.
But have you talked with the teachers?
Yeah.
Will you describe what you've done the last 2 weeks in terms of bringing your staff into this discussion?
We brought our staff both times, right after this, and shared the slide deck, and then after we came up with further information like the slide deck, we met with them again, and then opened our doors for anybody who wanted to come and speak to us, and they had solutions. And I had some people who would speak to us, and they didn't necessarily have solutions, but they wanted to give feedback, and that was fine too. And there, one of the solutions was a 5-day rotation, and one was a 8-day rotation as well, which is something that we had already vetted. And then just to go back to like the 13 pages of specialist feedback, that was just in December. And I would say it goes beyond even when I started 3 years ago, because when I started, I asked, when was this schedule started? Like, how did it come about? And no one could tell me, and the feedback given to me was, it is a mess. It is, I mean, I'm not using that word, but it's really, really hard and complicated, and I don't know why we do it.
Yeah, and
I think,
no, please.
I think another compounding factor, and maybe we're not, so specialist teachers, right, that we listen to the feedback from the specialist teachers. Are you specifically talking about classroom teachers?
I'm just trying to take off information because of what we heard today from the teachers, which were specialist teachers, and also, I mean, I'm imagining if people took the time out of their day to come to a school board meeting, which no one wants to do that. I mean, I'm already. No, wait, I didn't mean it like that. I mean, not like that, but in the sense that.
That's very true.
No, but sorry, that Freudian slip. In the sense that if people come out of their time a day to come to what is a very fun meeting, but I would just say that for me was a point of concern, and I just want to make sure those voices are highlighted because they did not come and sit through this long meeting for nothing, and I want to make sure that their voices are valued, and because they cannot be on this board, I just want to make sure I can orate for them what those in the audience cannot orate.
And I'll just add, this is a really hard decision. It's a hard recommendation for us to put forth. I don't think either one of us are like wanting to cut PE, nor would any of the principals in this room. So I think when you think about the feedback, right, like Did you hear from the art teachers who are possibly excited about getting to see their students more? You know, I think about the impact that that could have on students as well. We've had some classroom teachers that are also super excited about this opportunity for students. But I don't know that they're reaching out. I don't know if you're hearing from those voices.
Right, and of course, I'm obviously very, like, I wouldn't say very, but my expertise is only is biased, is what I've heard today, and I'm just trying to make sure, because I just feel like I'm very honored and grateful to have an opportunity to sit on this chair where I'm able to ask questions and speak, but I'm just worried that not everyone is able to be here right now, and I'm just trying to take in the voices that I've heard and the people who I see in the background and are trying so desperately to have their voices fit. I'm just trying to speak for those who aren't.
Further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, the question is before us. I think it's gonna be a close vote, so, Tiffany, can you just, it's not a resolution, but can you just do a roll? Because I think it's gonna be a close vote.
Do you even have a motion in front of us?
Yes, yes.
We motioned on the amendment.
Okay, then I just didn't know we
We
had.
had the motion from 2 weeks ago.
Got it.
Which is
Okay.
now amended tonight,
Got it.
so. Tiffany, please do the roll.
Zidek,
Are we voting right now?
We are voting.
No.
Valdez,
No, unless there was an amendment.
Peterson,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Aldridge,
Yes.
Johnson,
No.
Oh, good. Best day ever.
Brophy,
It had better work. Yes.
Motion passes 4-3. Thank you, Mika and staff, principals. It's a lot of work,
A lot of work to come.
a lot of work to come.
Can't wait to hear the update. Thank you for your time.
We have 2 action items and an information item. Do we want to take a brief recess? No, we have 2.
Just the calendar change on the back.
Project,
Yeah, I'll talk through what we have. So we
I
have,
think they're pretty quick.
okay.
LTFM is an action
Yeah.
item. and then
Oh,
the
I
calendar.
see it, Father, sorry, I was looking at the next.
Is everybody good to continue or?
Yeah, let's just go.
Okay. Next on our agenda is another action item, item 6.2, LTFM project bid approval for East Middle School toilet bathroom renovation. And here to present is Bill Manazzi, our Director of Finance, and Ed Zimet. I always get your name wrong, Ed. How do you? Zimet. Okay, I will get it right from now on, I apologize. Ed Zimet, Buildings and Grounds Manager. We also have Ben on the list, but he's not here tonight.
Ben, what? Not even I literally just, when I stepped out, I said to call him.
Understandable. Well, thank you to Ben for staying as long as he
Yes,
did.
he literally, yeah.
All right, welcome, gentlemen.
Good evening, thank you for having us. This is just a brief recommendation that we have for you, and Ed, please jump in here too. The recommendation that you see on the screen is to approve the East Middle School bathroom renovation project. There was a bid opening on Tuesday, January 14th. The low bidder was Deering Group. Deering Pearson Group, thank you. And really what I want to explain is that this is related to our LTFM 10-year plan. And so as you recall, the board approved the LTFM 10-year plan back in June. And so really going out for bid is delivering upon the expenditure part of that 10-year plan. So the board approved it in June, we go throughout the year, we went out for bid, and this would be just delivering on what we said in the plan. The funding mechanism for this project is LTFM, long-term facilities maintenance, so that is a funding mechanism that's restricted for projects like deferred maintenance, health and safety, or disabled accessibility. So this is restricted money that can only be used for those purposes. This would not be money that would be able to use for classroom instruction or building supplies, things of that nature. That's really all that I have. I'm sure that I missed a few things here. Ed, what do you have to add to it?
No, you covered it pretty well. I just wanna say we had very good competitive bidding. We had 8 different bids come in. So we had, very competitive bidding. And as you can see there, it came in a little bit under what we projected our costs were gonna be, so we're happy with the results and recommend you guys move forward with it.
Always good to come in below.
Yep.
And Mr. Chair, if I may, just a quick question. Are we seeing kind of, obviously during the pandemic, we had all these supply chain issues. Are we seeing some normalization in some of this? Has that environment just become less competitive perhaps than it had been previously? I mean, it's great that we're seeing these bids, but is this what are you seeing in terms of the trend right now?
During COVID and everything, the bidding you couldn't predict because it was, there was a lot of stuff going on. Companies were bidding, some companies were bidding high because they didn't really need the work, this and that. I say everything's starting to level out. The supply chains and everything are starting to come in where you can expect things to get there and you don't have the delays like we had back in COVID and everything. The big rush of the pandemic money and everything is kind of evening out and everything. So yeah, everything's kind of smoothing out. I don't want to say prices are coming down because that don't happen,
Prices
but
always go up.
exactly.
It's a trick question.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm seeing a lot more consistency throughout the bidding processes and stuff. And I mean, even if you look at our high bid and low bid, they were very competitive. I mean, between this one and our second lowest bid was only $33,000, and we were looking at $800,000 project. That's really good.
This project will be done this summer, correct?
Yes, project will be done this summer. It'll be starting the Monday after school, so let's out.
I would like to make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion by Aldrich and a second by Brophy. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate you staying late.
Yeah.
Thank you both. And if you get a chance, tell Ben thank you.
I'll call him, yeah.
Next on our agenda is item 7, at 7.1, school board committees, shared Google folder. Dr. Redmond.
Yeah, giving Tiffany a minute. I did send an email to all 7 board members with this. This is just now that we know the committees, kind of walking through just the steps, and I'm happy to help with that too. Because everybody's got different levels of familiarity with Google Drive and using Google. The one thing, and I'll probably say it twice, in order to enter here, this is our, it's a shared drive. You have access, but you only have access through your shakopeeschools.org, your Gmail address. So if you try to go with your K-12 one, it won't let you. And so this is where we put the school board, the committees are here. If you go to the home page, your Google Drive, you click home. You click on shared drives, which is down the list, and then that will bring you into a list of shared drives. Yours is towards the bottom, goes alphabetically, school board standing committees. You click on that, it goes in, it's a list of folders labeled by the years. I think it goes back 4 years, at least, yeah, I think it's 4. And the 4 committees, the 4 main committees, we don't have those other kind of offshoot or sort of liaison things. But community engagement, finance and facilities, personnel, and policy, they're there. And I should mention, each of the 7 board members, you have access to, whether you're on the committee or not, you have access to view the agenda and the information in there. But you then, obviously, if you're looking for a personnel committee, you click on personnel, and it opens up, and that is kind of that process. We're working
I think we've coordinated better. I'm kind of looking at Tiffany with community engagement, with Bill with finance and facilities, with Keith with personnel. I think I scheduled some meetings, I just happened to have it open. And then with policy, tending to schedule that. I think the invites are out, and just trying to give you a one-stop shop, trying to coordinate how we do the invites. We've had this before. Any quick questions?
Just make a comment. Once you find that parent folder, I highly recommend you save it on your toolbar. That's just my school board life hack. Cause yes, you don't wanna have to drill down and find that every time you wanna find it. So if you just have that, you're at the parent folder, and right when you're in there at the parent folder, that's also the committee assignments spreadsheet is there at that level. So if you're questioning which liaison committees you're on or whatever, that is in that parent folder, the same level where you see all these subfolders.
And then my one word of caution, you do have access to personnel stuff as a board member because it will come to you. Some of that still has data privacy if it's naming individuals or positions, so please, it is a public meeting, but even there are parts where we would potentially go into closed session. So don't assume because you can access it that it's all public data. And that's really the only one, I think, where we would ever, committee meeting, I could see if we had somebody in the audience, we would go into closed session because there is private data. So, and happy to help, and if you go, and don't, again, it's that, I can't get in here, how do I do that? I think we've got it. I went and checked the permissions. I don't guarantee there's not, one of these folders or something that might be a little bit off, but it seemed to all be working.
The question I have, and I'm in my 5th year, so I'm assuming it just works this way, but the passwords are synced between your shakopeeschools.org login and the K-12 login, right?
Yes.
Because
Mine are identical, yes.
Yeah, so if you would have changed, if you change one, do you have to change the other? Or they just synchronize through? And that's just a question all right. It's just worked for me, but I have found, especially if I'm like coming in from my phone, cause you can set up that multi-factor authentication and get into your email through your phone, and it will link off of there. If you do that, like I found through my phone, I get prompted for my password for the shakopeeschools.org, because it's not integrated like it is on the laptop. So you might get prompted and then it's the same password as your K-12.
Awesome. This action item might be quicker than the previous two. This is, I'll let you introduce the item.
Yeah, all right.
I'm really trying to speed us up, Joe.
All right, so we're done with the information item unless seen no questions about that. Next is an action item, item 8.1, replace the finance and facilities meeting on June 9 with a personnel committee meeting. And Dr. Renner will speak to that.
Thank you. June 9th, the facilities and finance committee meeting will be canceled that date. Bill Manazzi has an engagement elsewhere, and when we look, there's lots of facility and finance committees. Where we often run short and add meetings is the personnel committee, so thought it just made sense to make that change to our meetings calendar, well ahead of that date, as we know that. We talked about it at the personnel committee meeting this evening, and so I would recommend that we just swap out, we cancel on June 9th the facilities and finance committee, replace it with a personnel committee meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve.
We have a motion by Valdez, second by Peterson. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Committee reports and other information. I'll start with Tim.
Yeah, we actually, and Mr. Aldrich was present as well, we had an update on outdoor facilities. We started that work several months ago. In fact, I think our first meeting was back May and last, if I recall. But just to take a look at the outdoor spaces, how are they utilized, if there's potential investment, and what, just normal wear and tear, as well as what it would look like if we wanted to add another turf field or a turf field with the dome, and how that could be used, particularly in rental spaces. But I'll I'll defer any further comments or Joe can add to that.
Thank you, Chad.
Community engagement was recently, we talked about, just upcoming events, like we're getting into the busy season for, larger events that we can go to. So just talked about some of those. Just floated the idea of like, do we wanna define some more clarity over like what we're expected as school board members to do at these events? Or are we okay with just, the understanding is like, just show your face and wear your badge and people can see that school board members are around. So I think that's still sort of an open question. And then we've talked about like, do we wanna establish like a school board table that we can have set up when we go to events, and then, and what is that? We just sit there and wait for people to ask us questions? It seems like most people would probably just walk by. So we, how do we attract attention, and then what do we want out of the situation? So that was one topic of discussion, and then there was a very robust discussion about the need to communicate to families about the current ICE situation. There's a lot of fear in the community, and I'm probably not the best one to talk about that. I was doing mostly listening.
Joe?
I was kind of at that meeting that was last week. It was first day of the month, so I was kind of on mute for probably 2/3 of it, so I just kind of hit a few things, so I pretty much missed everything. That's just bad scheduling. We did, as Tim said, we had the Outdoor Facilities Committee meeting today. There was a lot of discussions on what we need to do with the several areas of for sports, soccer fields, softball fields, football fields, turf, domes. It was very interesting. The cost of a dome is crazy. But there's trying to see what other districts around us are doing. So it was a good meeting. We had to quit 50 minutes into it because of this meeting. There was a lot of good discussion on the future of those outdoor facilities.
Thank you. My brain is fried. We have personnel tonight, and I can't remember anything else, so Christie.
Personnel tonight, we talked about staffing, starting that whole process, for looking at needs for next year, all that jazz that goes with that. And then, my brain's fried too, but, we had a state high school meeting last week, and, a lot of good conversation around, the ninth grade governance, leading up to the rep assembly in May. A lot of work has gone into that, and I remind those people that, you know what it's like to be a school board member out there, because every policy at state high school needs to be. So anyway, and then we had some good discussion about girls wrestling and the expansion of girls in that sport, so.
We had personnel tonight, and then on the community engagement, we talked about Remo Bill. We talked about the upcoming events for the plays. So that's really exciting. I love plays. Thank you to everyone that bought a t-shirt for Coach versus Cancer. It's like one of the biggest events for the girls and boys basketball. That night was huge. They raised close to $12,000. That's split between two numbers. So two people ended up receiving money. So that's really great. But it's one of the biggest events that we put on.
None of my committees or organizations met last week, so I'm proud as far as invitations go so far. But I guess I spent last 2 weeks with a ton of a community engagement, just to one specific topic for the most part.
Michelle?
What was it, community engagement on last Monday. And yeah, just to reiterate, all of, everything that Chad and, Joe talked about that. Again, well, I saw the topic, it was just that many members in our community are just, it's been uncertain because considering that students when they come home, it's not only the idea of students in school, but students when they come home, if per se a parent, a family member, a legal guardian was taken, and the student no longer has transportation the next day or has an ability to stay the night, like what does that child do? Is there proper, what is the word I'm looking for, help for those parents and legal guardians so that these children do not end up nowhere and without a place to go to school the next day or without proper resources. So just continue discussions on that. And other than that, I guess Ireland, the band tour to go to Ireland is set to go in about a month. So I'm part of that.
Oh, wow, that's awesome.
How do we get on that again?
This is like a once in a lifetime thing because usually it's a cycle of 3 years, which means no one should go twice. But since the COVID pandemic, band and choir went together on the last trip, and so in order to offset the two, they decided to pull back band for 1 year, which meant that a bunch of kids who went on the tour last time, I went with, were able to go again, which is a crazy opportunity, and I'm like beyond grateful because I'm that year that gets to go twice. Like nobody else, no one above, no one below my grade is able to do that, but like our grade. So
In 2021, they didn't get to
in
go once.
2021 they didn't go.
Because that was gonna be Ireland in 2021,
right, so
and I was gonna go on that trip too.
Oh really?
Yeah,
Oh.
so
yeah.
wish I could go on your trip.
Right. Well.
It'll be awesome.
I'll take pictures for you.
I'm
Yeah,
going to
thank
France
you.
next year, so
Jim?
Yeah, I'll be at the Capitol in 11 hours. We had a call this afternoon. They were looking for people to testify on behalf of the READ Act and implementation. Sounds like there's some things going on at the Capitol where they're looking at altering the READ Act, possibly slowing things down, revoking funding. So we'll be over there tomorrow to speak in favor of it at 8:30 for the Senate and Finance.
Tiffany?
I do not have anything further.
Back to Kristen.
I just have one thing, speaking of the Capitol, March 10th is Day of the Capitol for school board members, so if you're interested, let me know. That's gonna be coming up really fast, but it'd be great to have some good representation and get some meetings set up and talk about what's going on with Shakopee and tell our story.
From an MSBA lens, do you have, session just came to order. Do you have any idea of the legislative platform and some of, is it the same as we talked about?
That's the same as what was approved in the government.
Dr. Robin?
I actually have one this time. I usually don't. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday this week, I will be at a Science of Reading or Structured Literacy Conference. There's elements of kind of for practitioners, and then there's elements kind of for leadership of that. And so looking forward to that learning opportunity as a former high school social studies teacher, economics, things like that. Although I sometimes joke, I get a lot of literacy instruction at home. My wife's an elementary literacy specialist, but just thought this was a great opportunity to dig deeper and become, better informed on that.
Thank you. All right, and our last item is upcoming meetings and important dates. We have a long list on the screen here. Tiffany, anything you want to call attention to?
I would just note the link that's towards the top for Education Forward. You should see that in your mailbox soon, but it's an electronic format, and we always try to highlight as many things that we know about as possible. There's some great things that Michelle brought up and others, and there's also some just great news from our staff and students. So hope folks can check that out.
Thank you. With that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second. Motion by Brophy, second by Aldrich. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Adjourned.